And anyone that was not able to make it, you can then obviously share the link with them as well. So as I said, this webinar is going to focus solely on the PingPost aspect, and we're going to really dive into the specifics of auto finance. These topics we're discussing and tips can be used in other PingPost lead types as well. It's not limited to auto finance. However, that's the vertical that we're gonna focus on mostly in this particular webinar. So again, thank you for everyone for coming to this. This is going to be something we're going to be rolling out a little bit more. So please be on the lookout for other different types of webinars coming up as well. So with PingPost, we'll go ahead and get into the system here. With PingPost, one of the things that usually happens is you're buying leads from an affiliate network or a lead reseller or vendor, whatever the term is that you have in your system here. So these are your people that would be selling you leads, and then you could either resell them to other buyers, or route them to auto agents as well. Would be a different way to do it. So the first thing with getting it set up is, how are we going to get these leads into your system? So in order to do that, you're going to have to provide the posting specs to these lead sellers, these vendors, and basically that tells them how they send the data through. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and check out the specs. So if you click on your main settings tab in your system, you can then have a tab here that is API specs. So this tab, not only does it include the PingPost specs, which you can see here, PingPost Lead. These are all listed in alphabetical order. These are all of the out-of-the-box standard APIs that boberdoo offers. So this is anything from, creating a form where you can create a new partner or lead buyer in your system, to submitting lead refunds, processing or approving or declining refunds, as well as any other these APIs listed here. We are also open to doing custom APIs, so if there's something you're looking for that you would need to do, we can do that custom as well. But for now, let's focus on the PingPost Lead API. So when you click on that API, you can then scroll down, and you'll see here loading. It's going to load all the PingPost lead types that are set up in your particular system. This being a dummy demo system, you can see there's tons of different lead types we have in here, just to show you, your system could be handling any type of lead type, not only maybe the ones you're just working in currently. So if I click on auto finance, it then populates all the posting specs for that lead type for PingPost. To get this information over to your lead seller, you can simply copy and paste this link. And then if you open that in a new browser, it would be this particular page with all the specs. And that way you don't have to give your lead sellers or vendors a login to be able to see the posting specs. So giving this link, it's going to allow them to see exactly what needs to be done in order for them to be integrated to sell leads to you on a PingPost basis. These specs highlight what's required for them to send on the ping, what's required for them to send on the post, what the field name is, the allowed values or data types for that particular field, and then finally an example. So you can see here with auto finance, it's a pretty standardized lead type, meaning no matter the client, pretty much all of the information that's passed from a seller to a buyer across the board is pretty unified. It's going to be your basic contact information, the monthly income, some employer information, and then Social Security number is obviously the big one here. On the ping, pretty much standard. On the ping, always required is the zip code, the monthly income, and the Social Security number. It's unique to auto finance because Social Security number is also usually the duplicate check. So on the ping, you're not only checking for coverage based upon that, you're also getting the Social Security number to make sure it's not a duplicate lead coming through. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword there, where you're getting all the proper information needed for your buyers to make a bid, but then you're also having this unique Social Security number sent through that is then used for your duplicate check. So when they send the ping through, they're going to include those 3 fields, and then depending on your system specs, some people require a sub-ID for sub-tracking. Obviously, the SRC, which is your main tracking variable, which we're going to get into great detail right after this. The type, which identifies the lead type in your particular system. And there's an option here for return best price. And this is very important because this, PingPost and dynamic pricing usually go hand in hand. You can do PingPost and static pricing. However, most people tend to lean towards the dynamic side of things. Since the functionality is there, I would urge you to use that as well. What this does is if the vendor sends in return best price equals 1 on the ping only, you can see it says only if dynamic pricing is required, yes. And basically what that does is it tells the system, return back the best, highest price offer to that vendor. So that way when they send the ping through, your system then calculates, all right, who can match with this particular lead. It takes then your highest bidder and then subtracts any margin that you want to take off the top, and then presents that highest bid minus your margin cut, and then presents that offer back to the lead seller. So that offer will only show up if they send return best price equals 1. If they don't send return best price equals 1, no price offer will be returned back at all, and that's what identifies it as being static pricing. Sorry, 1 second here. All right, so with so the ping comes through, and then here's an example of what the response will look like. So there's 3 different responses that can happen when a lead seller or vendor sends a lead into your system. You're either going to return back matched, unmatched, or error. So matched, if they send return best price, we'll also have the price offer that you're willing to pay that seller for that lead. And what matched means is they sent the ping through, and that you found a matching buyer on your end that's eligible to grab or eligible to buy that lead. So you return back to them, yep, it's matched, here's the lead ID, and then here's the price offer you're willing to pay that seller for that lead. If they send in a ping and they get unmatched, that means that there was no errors, there was no buyers available to take that lead. Why was there no buyers available to take that lead? You would have to click on the lead log option in the leads page to see why. It could be, your filters didn't match. It could be one of your buyers is rejecting the lead. Your buyer might say it's a duplicate. It's unique on a case-by-case basis. And then finally, if it's an error, it's going to give the actual error reason for why the lead didn't make it in. So anytime there's an error return, the lead does not show up in your system. So required value for a field missing, an invalid value, a duplicate, those are examples of different errors that can come through. So what happens on a ping post is they send the ping, let's say that it was matched with the price, then what you can have them do is they then take a look at that price offer. So let's use this example right from the specs. Let's say you return back a price of $25. It is now up to that seller to determine if they think that price is worth it to them. Do they want to sell that lead for $25 to you? It is up to them. If they say, 25 is an agreeable price, they then send the post through. At that point, your system would accept the post being, all of the contact information here, the first name, the last name, so on and so forth, any of these other ones that are marked as required. And then it attempts to sell that lead to the highest bidder. And if they buy it, then it's going to return back matched. And if not, it can be unmatched or error. So There are situations, which I'll show you coming up, where you return back a price offer of $25, but then the post never comes into your system. And you might be saying, well, I returned back an offer. Well, why didn't they sell me that lead? Why didn't they send the post in? You would have to ask the vendor to know for sure, but most likely 99% of the time it means that your price offer that you returned back did not or was not maybe the highest bidder. Because you have to think about it just like what you're doing. When a ping comes in from your seller and you then ping that out to all your possible buyers, you're taking in those offers and then you're ordering it based on whoever's paying the most. You'd have to imagine that your sellers are doing the same exact thing. So if they send in a ping and you return back 25 and they don't send in the post, that most likely means they got a price offer from 25. It wasn't the highest bid at all, so therefore they send it to someone else and not to you. So that's the API specs portion of it. We're going to dive now into the vendor and the sources. So again, just to recap for anyone that may have just showed up or was just signing on late, the API specs here you can give out to your vendor so that they can send PingPost leads to you. It's found under Settings, API Specs, and then click on PingPost Lead, and it will list all your PingPost lead types you have in your system. Clicking on the lead type will then display those particular specs. So let's go ahead and move on to setting up sources and setting up vendors or lead sellers. So when you create a source in your system, this is the SRC. We define this as your main tracking variable. So every place you're getting a lead from will most likely have its own SRC value. And this is done so that you can track exactly where every single lead comes from. And then all of the base reports are broken out by the source value: lead sales, profits, returns, all broken down by source. So it is the metric in which most of the tracking is done throughout the system. So when you click under Settings, Source Vendor Settings, you can click Add New to add a new source. When you click Add New, you'll see here all the different options you can set for this particular source that you're going to create. So the name value you enter here is the SRC value that this seller would need to use when they post the leads in. So this value can be anything you want. It's for your own, your own classification, however you want to word it, however you want to phrase it. It's however you can remember or identify where the lead comes from. This value is never passed to your buyers, so they never see this value, so they don't know where your leads are coming from. So you don't have to feel the need you need to mask the value. If you're getting it from company ABC, you could literally name it ABC. It's up to you, what you want to have set as this particular value. And so once you create the value or add the value here, you have the option to attach a vendor account. And a vendor or a lead seller account is a login that you can provide so they can see what leads they've sent over. You can allow them to run a couple different reports and so on. Many of these options under the source you won't really use. The main three that we say are the most important are obviously the name, then the lead cost, and then the partners per lead, and then for PingPost, this option down here for the allow using return best price parameter in PingPost API, return lead cost parameter in PingPost API, and then the margins that you can set. So those are the main parts that you'd have to worry about when creating a new source. A very helpful page, though, is this little link at the top. So this is in your lead filter set pop-up, and it's also in your source pop-up as well. If you click this, it's going to give you a page that breaks down every single option in that source pop-up, and it's going to give it a full definition of what it is. Internet's a little bit slower in the office today. But you can see here the the source name. What is that? You click on it, main tracking variable that allows you to identify from where the lead is coming. Gives an example, so on and so forth. So it has a full definition for each in case you forget or in case you want a refresher. So the next part I mentioned was the lead cost. If they're dynamic, which is what we're kind of focusing on today, the lead cost is always going to be 0. The lead cost will only be set if it's a static cost that you're paying per lead. So the lead cost can be set there. So if you're agreeing to pay a flat rate of $10 per lead, you would simply plug in $10 there. That way every lead that comes through is marked as a cost of $10 from this particular source. If they're dynamic, though, like I said, we should leave it at 0. So the next most important option here is allow using return best price parameter in PingPost API. So if a vendor or a source, I should say, is going to be dynamic pricing, meaning you want to return that best price offer limit to them, this is going to have to be set to yes or yes but sold non-exclusively. If they try to send in return best price and it's set to no, they're going to get an error back that says return best price parameter is disabled. So that way you would know you just need to go ahead and set this to yes or yes but sold non-exclusively. Now these options between yes and yes but sold non-exclusively, they differ basically only when the highest bidder doesn't end up purchasing the lead on the post. So that's getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, so I will definitely come back and explain that more in detail once I cover the filter set part, and it will make a lot more sense. So with dynamic pricing, let's say we're going to set it to yes. The maximum best price offer limit, this is how you can put a cap on the highest dollar amount you'll ever return back. So if you have a buyer, let's say that dynamically returned a bid of $50, and you have a margin set to a flat rate of $2, and you had this maximum best price offer limit set to 30, even though the highest bidder $40 minus 2 is 38, since the maximum best price offer limit is 30, this is what you would return back as that price offer in the ping response. So like I said, this is just a way to cap off how to set a maximum cap at the dollar amount you're going to return back for an offer. Now next we have premium vendor margin, and this is a section where you can set how much money you want to take off the top out of that off that highest bidder. So premium vendor margin is something that can be set up when you have the margins also set at the filter set level. And so the filter set level, obviously at each individual buyer, individual partner, you can set up how much money you're going to take out, either a percentage or flat dollar amount. That part's taken out first, and then after that margin's taken out, then this premium vendor margin is then taken out. So this premium vendor margin can actually be a positive number or a negative number. If you want to use the example, let's say the lead comes through from this particular source and it pings out the highest bidder is $10. The filter set margin is set to $2. So $10 minus 2, right now we're at $8. So right now that's your price offer, and then the system's going to look at where the lead came from. If it came from this source, it's going to look at the premium vendor margin. If it's a negative number, -1, for example, that means it's going to take off another dollar off the top. So we were at $10 as the actual bid from the buyer. You subtracted $2 from the filter set margin. Now it goes to the premium vendor margin, and there's a -1, that's going to subtract another dollar. So you're at an offer that you present to the seller of $7. 10 minus the 2 minus 1. If you want to add money back to the offer, you can enter the positive number. So that's the same situation. $10 is the highest bidder. The filter set margin is set to $2, so we're at 8, and then we do a positive value of 1 for the premium vendor margin. that's going to add $1 back to it and end up as an offer that's presented back to the seller of $9. Now you might be asking, well, why would I ever do that? Some people have what they call premium sellers, so kind of premium vendors, and how the name came to be. They're better, for lack of better description, they're a better seller. They present better leads. So maybe you're looking to make your highest, your best buyer happy, and you want to make sure that you get the bid for this particular lead. So you're willing to add a little bit money back to make sure that you have a higher bid than someone else so that you can win that lead. So that's kind of the idea behind the premium vendor margin, where you can add a negative number to subtract more money off the top, or you can do a positive number to add money back to the offer before presenting it to that seller. So those are the main parts I wanted to cover here in that source. We're going to use this example here, one we already created, and the leads we're going to look at have come in from this dynamic source that we've already set up. So you can just see how this works in a real example here. They have it set to yes, premium vendor of, like I said, -1. There's no limit on the best price offer. The lead cost is set to 0. So now that we've looked at that section, we're going to again now move on to setting up the lead buyer section. So we covered, getting the leads into the system through the PingPost. Your buyers or your partners or your clients, again, that term is unique to your system. When we set you up, we asked you, what you wanted this to be called. So it might be different in your system. But please note that when I say partners, I mean lead buyers or clients or agents or however they're termed in your particular system. So let's go ahead and dive right into the filter set of a partner. Oops, I clicked on the wrong one. So this filter set here, you can see we have their auto finance lead type filter set created. And since this is a dynamic one, meaning this buyer has a PingPost custom delivery that we assigned. So in this situation, we're going to have the lead price be set to 0. They are, they're dynamic, and that's why we put that then in the filter set notes, so we know that they're not actually paying $0 per lead. It's a dynamic custom delivery where they're going to return back a bid. So here you have the lead price again, and if you mouse over this eye, the price is used if the ping accepts lead but does not return any price. So if they're a non-PingPost delivery, this is the price that's used. If they're a PingPost delivery that returns back a price, that actual dynamic price they return back is used as the lead price of what you're selling it for. So here you have the option to set the profit margin. So just like we looked at the source side, you can do a fixed dollar amount or you can do a percentage. So with a percentage, this is usually used in conjunction with buyers that are dynamic as well. And what this allows you to do is it allows you to change your margin based upon their offer. So when I click on variable, fixed is pretty straightforward. You're going to put in, like I said before in the example, maybe a $2 margin. So whatever the price offer is, you're going to subtract a flat rate of $2. But if you do variable, you can see here it pops up this new little matrix section that you can program what you want the margin to be based upon the price offer. So the minimum price obviously starts at 0, and then you can put in your max price here. Let's say we put in $5. So if their dynamic price offer comes back and it's between 0 and $5, I want to take out a 15% margin. The default profit margin here, it means anything that falls outside of these ranges that you set, this is the margin that's taken out. So in this situation, if it's 501 or greater, I want to take out a 20% margin. Now you can also set multiple matrices here by clicking the plus sign And you can see here, the minimum price is automatically filled in as a penny greater than the previous max price. So now I can say if the price offer that they dynamically return back is between 501 and 15, well, then I want to take out a 17% margin. And you can click the plus sign, as much as you want, in between 15 and 25. Well, then I want to take out a 19% margin. And then anything else would be 20%, anything higher than 25. So these are just different options you can then set for that margin that you want to take out. You have complete control over this, since margins can differ, and you might want to fluctuate it to see, your leads come through. You check on your leads page, right? How many leads am I winning? You can run some basic reports. What leads am I bidding on? And you can see, and you may need to come in here and adjust the margin. You might need to lower it to get more successful bids, or maybe you're not taking out enough and you need to raise it. So this is something you have complete control over. You can do it for every single filter set. You can do it for every single buyer. So everything else in the filter set is the same as any other lead. You have to select the accepted lead sources. You're going to select their delivery method, which is if the lead matches to them, how does it get sent over to them? And then finally at the bottom, time of the day of the week, if they take certain states, certain zips, certain monthly income. That's obviously a big one. It's the one that's sent on the ping. Many buyers might say, hey, only send me leads if the monthly income is greater than $1,500. So in this situation, you'd have to select 15 to 20, 20 to 30, 3,000 plus. If you don't select the filter at all, that means they accept every single value. So if you created a brand new filter and just click save, that means they take every single state, every single zip, every single credit score, income, and monthly payment. Only if you select to use the filter will you then have to select what they accept. So that's setting up the filter sets in the partner account. So let's go ahead and look at a different one. So that was one that had a dynamic custom delivery set. We're going to look at ID 137. And I can see here that they have, they're just a regular static buyer, and they have a regular email delivery. So if they, auto finance, a big common delivery is the ADF, XML, plain text emails, or plain text integrations. Those are usually non-PingPost. So that usually, pretty much always means that it's going to be a static price offer from that buyer. Since they don't have the ability to dynamically return back a price, you discuss an agreed upon lead price. When you're signing them up, and then you're just going to plug that value in here. And when a lead comes through and it matches to this filter set, it's going to charge them $11. Same idea here. You can put the profit margin, and it can be fixed. If there's static pricing, there's really no reason to put variable, just because the price isn't changing. So there's really no need to do that. If there's static pricing, fixed pricing, you most likely want to use fixed static margin type. Same idea though. The rest of everything is the same: time of the day of the week, filters, so on and so forth. So I mentioned how this one's static, the other one's dynamic. Well, let's go ahead and actually look at the leads page, and this is where we kind of want to spend most of our time here. I'm sure most of the stuff we just discovered is kind of just like a refresh. So here I really want to dive into the details and how you read the logs, so you can tell what's happening with your leads and what needs to be done maybe from your end, what maybe needs to be done from your vendor's end, what maybe needs to be done from your buyer's end to make sure everything's flowing and working as you imagined or envisioned. So let's go ahead and jump right into this lead here. So this lead came through. We can see it came from this source at this time, and it matched to this particular buyer. So I always like to say that one of your best friends on this page is your show lead log icon. and that's this one right here. You can see every single lead that comes through, no matter if it's matched or unmatched, has this show lead log. And if you click on it, it's going to give you a pop-up that walks you through step-by-step of what happened with the lead. So why did this lead match to this buyer? Clicking the lead log, you can see what happened. So with every lead log, and just like your leads page or just like your partners page, every new record is always at the top. So the most recent record is always at the top. So when you open the lead log, you want to scroll to the bottom and then read up. So I can see here that the premium vendor margin was set to -1. I see ID 137, who has an HTML email delivery. It matched with this filter set and had this lead price. So a very common question is, why does it say fake ping delivery? What's that? Fake ping delivery is basically the system's way of putting in a placeholder saying that ID 137's filter set matched with this lead that came through. But since they don't have a PingPost delivery, it's a fake ping, and this is just where we're grabbing the lead price. And it's just showing for your reference which filter set lead price it grabbed from. So I see master filter set 15605. Now if I go to that lead filter set, you can see here the filter set ID right there, 15605. And that could be helpful, you know, if you have lots of different filter sets and you're trying to figure out which one it matched with. That filter set ID, master filter set, you can see here, so you know which one it matched with. So again, fake ping is, like I said, just a placeholder. Instead of actually pinging it out like it does to this buyer, since they don't have a PingPost delivery, it just shows that as the placeholder value. Same thing with this lead, ID 135 with an HTML email delivery. Also had a fake ping matched to this filter set with a lead price of $10. Now, this buyer actually has a custom delivery that actually pinged it out. So you see here on the ping, they return back matched with a price offer of $11. So now here's where you can see how the system determined and decided who it should sell to. So if you remember when we looked at ID 137, they had the $2 margin in it. 123 didn't have any margin set at the filter set level. 135 had nothing set at the filter set level, only the dollar at the vendor level, and then 137, like I said, had the $2 margin. So looking through here, you see 137's offer came to 8, 135 came to 9, and then ID 123 had an offer of $10, and the best offer was to return back to the vendor was $10 based upon that one. So how did it get to $10 or $8 or $9? So if we look at this, the 137, in their lead filter set, they had it set to a lead price of 11, but they had the $2 filter set margin, so it was at 10, and then it had the $1 premium margin to get down to 8. This ID had a lead price of 10, 0 filter set margin, but then the $1 premium, -1, to arrive at the $9 offer. And then this $11 offer with 0 at the profit or at the filter set margin, and then -1 for the premium vendor margin, arrived at an offer of $10. So in this situation, we see the 8, 9, and 10 being the highest. So it then returns that offer back to the seller. They agreed to that particular offer, so they sent the post through. So you can see here which one was the ping and which one was the post. And so when you click on this, you can see, all right, they reply back matched, it's sold successfully. And then another useful tool you can see is the delivery time. So this is how many seconds this delivery took to process that response. 0.62, that's great. You never want to see it in double digits, higher than 10 seconds. If you do, you'll want to definitely reach out to your buyer. Because if you're doing PingPost, your sellers also have like a timeout setting on their end, meaning they need to have a response back of what you want to do with that lead. Either you bought it or you didn't in a certain amount of time. If you have one buyer that's taking up a majority of that time, that's going to end up with your other buyers not being able to bid or buy the lead. So again, that's something you want to proactively check on your own to see what's happening. And then lastly, a recent update we did to the system is this little icon here. And if you click that, you can see it pulls up exactly what was sent, the URL. This is exactly what was sent out to the buyer. So you can see what fields and what values were sent out. All right, so to recap, it matched 3 different buyers. We took the margins out of all of them. It then grabbed the highest bidder after the margin, presented that offer back to the seller, who accepted that offer and sent the post through, and that lead sold successfully to 123. You can see it sold for $11, and you return back a cost of $10, making your $1 margin from that lead. So now let's go ahead and look at the next lead here. Similar situation. The lead came through. It matched this same filter set with a lead price of 11. It matched this filter set with a lead price of 10. It matched this buyer who had a PingPost delivery. However, you can see here that their response in the ping was actually an error. So you can see here, error, required value for gross monthly income missing. So that you know why they didn't accept that, it shows you right here that they returned an error. So therefore, no price value was grabbed from them. It's considered an error. And so the lead then determines who the highest bidder is from the 2 remaining buyers, the $8 and $9, after the margins were taken out. Best offer returned to vendor was $9. That is the price offer you return back. It's sold for $10. They just have an email delivery, so it shows HTML successful. And there you have it. The lead sold for 10, and you bought it for 9. Now this lead coming in here is unmatched. And well, why was it unmatched? I go ahead and I click the show lead log. Or actually, no, sorry. I want to click on. I want to now focus on. Let's say you set up a brand new lead seller, and they are sending you pings, and you're not seeing them anywhere on your lead stage here. And you say, what's going on? How can I figure out what's happening? So by default, your leads page will only ever show the post. So these are only leads where posts have made it in. You can always use the filter icon though, and you can select, it defaults to posts only, but you can also select pings only, both pings and posts, or you can do matched pings only, which I'll explain in a second. So we're going to do pings only now, and we click filter. Now this is going to display any pings that have come in that didn't end up resulting in a post. And you can see that they're pings because there's no last name, there's no phone, there's no email, there's no contact information. It's only the ping. So same idea here. You can click the show lead log for each to see why it didn't match. And we now have color-coded these unmatched responses so that at a quick glance you can see why or what type of unmatched it is. So to define those, anytime it's this blue or teal, this means that the lead didn't match any filters at all. So the lead came in, maybe no one took the zip code, any of your buyers, at this exact time when it came through. So it's blue unmatched, no records found is usually the lead log response that you'd see there. And like I said, the blue teal means it didn't match to anyone. It didn't attempt to anyone. Red unmatched means that it did attempt to someone, but it failed. Maybe an error, might be something, but you can click the show lead log then to see. So here we can see the lead came through and the ping returned back an error for this field missing. You can see here that it marked it as an error. Response is not a success. The price is missing. Since it wasn't a success, there's no price offer. So therefore, it's the red unmatched, meaning, like I said, it attempted to someone. They didn't return back a success. So that's the red unmatched. And then finally, the green unmatched means that there was a successful ping, but then the post never came through. and that's kind of what I alluded to when I was covering the PingPost specs. Let's say we'll click on the example here. So we click show lead log. The lead came through. It sent out the ping. They returned back a success, a price offer of 11. We grabbed the vendor margin. We subtracted the dollar. We presented back to them $10. However, the post never came through. And, why didn't the post come through? Most likely that $10 offer that you presented to them was not high enough. They sold it to someone else. So that's what the green means. It means that's a ping that you returned back a valid bid, but you didn't win it. So that's very helpful because you can then see which leads you're actually bidding on, but then you're not winning. And that then gives you the ability to go back into that filter set or the source and adjust that margin that you have set. Maybe you're taking out too much, maybe you're taking out too little, whatever it may be. You can see those. And then finally, with the filter leads page here, we did pings only. If you do matched pings only, that will only display only green ones. So when I click match pings only, it's going to only display ones that have that green unmatched. So therefore, you can easily see, which ones you're not winning or winning the bids for. All right. So those are the kind of the main things I want to cover, especially with the lead logs and diving into diagnosing your pings only, checking the lead logs. Those are the big things. That's some people might think that's hard to read, but when you look at it, like I said, it can be confusing if you're just trying to jump into it. So hopefully this webinar helped you at least kind of maybe understand what some of these words are, and where that price margin is taken out from, or what that little log means for the lead. So hopefully that can help you then go into your system and do these exact things and see which leads you're winning, which leads you're not. Those are things you can then adjust on the fly, since you have complete control over these lead filter sets where you're setting the margin.
All right. Well, thanks, Brett. This is Scott from boberdoo. I'm going to jump in here, and I appreciate everybody sticking with us through this hour, and we're almost done here. We're going to open it up, make sure we get any questions that are out there answered. But before we do, there's just a couple of really interesting things that I'd like to touch on. So, Brett, if you could just click on that second slide in David's link, that would be helpful here, so that you can show that to the client. So, Brett talked a lot about pings and incoming pings into your system. That can result in a lot of data. And so, what do you do with all of that? How do you analyze it? And we do have some standard reports, but, we found that each client's lead system really is unique. So what we have done here internally at boberdoo, we've hired a data scientist. So if this chart that we have up here looks like it would mean something to you, then you probably don't need a data scientist. You could probably do that type of analysis on your own. However, if somebody gave you some scatter plot like this and it just looked like a bunch of lines going everywhere like it does for me, then, and you want to gain insight into that data, that is where we can help. And so we can take kind of your data points, your incoming pings or your outgoing pings, and analyze that for opportunities to try and maximize your revenue or to whatever your specific end goal is. So if you go to that next slide there, we can kind of work from something like this to something that is more specific, that points out specific opportunities for you with regards to bidding, not only in terms of dollar amounts or in specific scenarios, but we can then implement tests and then present you with those findings. So those are good examples of custom projects that we can take on. So if you do have a lot of incoming ping volume and want to start to make sense of that, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Love to have that conversation about what we can do. The last thing, if you want to go to that next slide there, Brett. So then the last thing before we open up to Q&A is consent. So, auto finance can be a high volume lead type, depending on where you're getting your leads from and who you're selling your leads to. If you've been following the news, you need to start paying attention to consent. And so if I were you, or if you're out there, you want to make sure that you know who you're working with. If they have a lead ID or some screenshot verification service that they're using, as if they are passing lead ID URL with the lead information, that can all be set up and configured in your lead system. There's several different options as far as what is being used. We don't really take a position on that. And there really hasn't really been a lot for the lead seller. Boberdoo does have in beta lead QC certificates, which is our version of a screenshot verification. It is a lower cost option and something that is meant for the lead sellers as opposed to the lead buyers who are looking to take that additional step, making sure they're having consent, especially with things like if you've read our post this week about the Canadian lawsuits and things like that. I mean, how do you know there's no Canadian? How do you know there's no Canadian emails in your outbound marketing? So things like that are issues that I'm sure as a lead generation companies you're going to be addressing. As you do, keep in mind Boberdoo, while we do have the base lead distribution system, also has other products and services and custom options that might be available to help you. So with that said, let's go ahead and open this up. I would imagine that there are going to be some questions here. Tyler was nice enough to post that link on the chat, but we're going to keep it in presentation mode, so please go ahead and write your questions on the chat, and then we will handle them. It looks like Brett was just too thorough. I guess he answered any questions that may have even possibly come up at the end. That's what we like to hear. So, all right, last chance. I hear people dropping off the line, so there's no sense in dragging this out. We'll hit this right at the hour. All right, we do. So Ryan has an interesting question. Ryan's question is, can you set a manual review setting on the buyer side, or is that only on the provider side? That is a setting that is at the source level. However, there is something called call center verification as it relates to selling leads to dealers that want a verified lead only. And then the question becomes, how does one only sell a verified lead and operate in a PingPost environment? Ryan, I would encourage you to attend tomorrow's webinar because that is exactly what we're going to be covering, that call center verification. That is what is covered on tomorrow's demo. So that is a big part of tomorrow. And we're going to talk exactly the settings in your Boberdoo system that allows you to achieve that. All right, so we will end this webinar here today. I'd like to thank everybody again for joining us. You have a great rest of your day. If you do have follow-up questions, again, we have support options, chat on our website. We also have our ticket system, so please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you very much and have a good day.